see a couple of lights, I can see a wall, a picture, I can see a computer, and everything in between those forms, material forms, it seems to be empty space to my perception. It's not,
Right.
but it seems to be. And so that's how tiny it is. And what we call visible light, which is the only thing we can actually see, the only band of frequency we can see, is basically the form, the world of material form. That's why it seems like empty space between it all.
I got a good one for you real quick. I wanted to give you this. This is a thought I came up with a long time ago. Because they used to say there's nothing in space, it's a vacuum, it's nothing. And I just, as a kid, I was always like, there's no such thing as nothing. Nothing doesn't exist. It's not a thing. And so therefore it isn't a thing. You can't have a large nothing or a small nothing. So nothing is not a thing. I just wanted to lay that on you while I had you here.
Yeah. Well, what's happened now, of course, is we've got into this whole realm of quantum physics, which shows that there isn't even any physical as we experience it. That's the scale of the illusion that we are.
Where is the illusion coming from? Who's conjuring it? And are they able to communicate with the entities, aliens, demons on the other side? And do they actually do favors for the people doing the rituals to the people on the other side of the veil?
Well, yes, they do. And the point is that there are other dimensions of reality, other bands of frequency, if you like, that interpenetrate this one. So I'm sitting here, and all I can see is what visible light shows me.
No, I mean, I get
that. But in the same space that I'm sitting in is infinity. It's all the other dimensions of reality. They're just on other wavelengths, which, like radio and television stations, unless they're close on the dial, they don't interfere with each other. You don't even know they exist.
Or if you smoke DMT.
And it's in these what's called the astral dimension, which kind of interpenetrates very closely with this one, or certain levels of it do, that these entities exist. Now, when I started uncovering this stuff in the early 1990s, and this global cult and this network of secret societies, what kind of, by the mid 1990s, what kind of took me aback was the realization that these rich and famous cultists were doing satanic rituals, human sacrifice rituals, to their gods. And then you look back and you see that the ancients were doing that. They were doing it openly because it was acceptable then, but they were sacrificing young virgins to the gods, code for children. And they were making offerings to the gods.
But the gods would repay them.
Yeah, and the point being that you realize that the quote gods, they're not pathetic, that these people today are doing their rituals to are the same gods that the ancients were doing their rituals to. They just called them different names in different cultures.
Yeah, like Quetzalcoatl, like he was a serpent god, right? Like gets back into the reptilian thing, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the serpent thing is ubiquitous throughout history and cultures. If you go into
Garden of Eden, the snake.
Yeah, well, the whole story. I mean, even if you go in the Bible, they refer to the devil, as they call it, as the great dragon. I mean, it's ubiquitous, and this is the pathetic
what do you
thing.
Do you think it's possible that because I've heard you talk about, I'm not a Bible thumper by any means. In fact, I was atheistic for a long time, but I ended up defeating my own atheistic tendencies to believe that there is Godhead, if you will, what you say. So is it not possible that there could be rituals, that religious people do that may actually garner favor from positive entities on the other side of the veil?
Yeah, well, the thing is that let's just look at the structure of this situation as I've researched it over all these years now. We live in a virtual reality universe. It's the equivalent of a virtual reality game, only extraordinarily more
Who created it? Who put us here? What is a human if we're not in this virtual reality?
Well, when we're not in this virtual reality, we are consciousness. That's the point. That's the true I. We are consciousness. We are a state of being aware. And when we are operating through the human body, we're operating through what I've been calling since the 1990s a biological computer. And what we're doing, what the biological computer is doing, is decoding the information field that is the simulation.
But
And
who created the simulation? Who trapped our spirits? How did they do it?
There are endless names for the force that did it. Christianity talks about Satan or the devil. Islam talks about shaitan. The Gnostics talk about the demiurge or Yoda Bayoff. There's different names for the Saklas, Samael, different names that different cultures and religious beliefs give it. But it's a very distorted, schismatic state of consciousness. This is why so many names that have been given to this distorted state of consciousness relate to words like foolish or blind. It's because it's basically extraordinarily imbalanced. It thinks and wants to express itself as a god. It wants a kingdom. It wanted a kingdom.
Isn't that basically what people are doing when they want to trap us in this new virtual world, is a new digital consciousness? They're basically trying to create a prison within the so-called prison. Like, personally, I feel like there is a base reality that this whole everything's a simulation theory at some point breaks down, because base reality, somewhere there is a blueprint for space, time, electricity, mathematics, and all these things have existed eternally. And that is the true essence of reality. And so you can make copies and prisons, but all the prisons are basically made of the reality itself. It's like even the video game requires electricity and a computer and math and science. But
that's the whole point. You see, that's what these ancient texts of various kinds around the world are talking about. Of course, there is a what I call a prime reality. It's what I call infinity, and that prime reality, that infinity, is extraordinarily different to what we're experiencing here. And you talk about religion and gods and stuff. It's been my contention for a very long time that the God of the Bible, and actually the God of many other religions, is actually this force. We've got a perceptual mind game.
The good force or the bad force?
No, the negative force, the schismatic force.
The God of the Bible is actually the bad God.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the Old Testament, mate. It's a bloodthirsty tyrant they're describing.
What about Jesus? He seemed pretty chill, right?
But the point being that what they've done is manage to get people to follow a religion that opposes the negative force, while at the same time worshipping what they perceive to be the positive force, which is actually the same entity. It's an extraordinary mind game. But beyond this simulation is prime reality. The point being that if you're going to trap consciousness in a simulated fake reality, you have to stop them understanding the true nature of the I, which is consciousness, and you have to stop them understanding the plight that they're in. So you basically are looking to focus their attention only on the level of the five senses, the body five senses, because that's where most people live their lives, in the five senses. And it's focusing their attention only on the human world, so that when you meet someone and you ask them who they are, they'll give you their name, they'll give you their
how tall they are, what color they are.
Yeah, they'll give you the 5 sense version of them.
Right.
And we're not the body. We're not human. The body is what we call human. We are consciousness that is having an experience called human. And
how did the overall base reality allow a portion of consciousness to be trapped, or is all consciousness trapped, or are the things that are trapping us themselves trapped in the idea of trapping?
well, if you have a state of consciousness that's disconnected from the infinite state of consciousness, then you are going to, we come back to this word again, you're going to perceive the world that you're in and the plight you are in a certain way. But if you can open your mind and tap back in to the consciousness that you are, the expanded consciousness that you are suddenly going to, through that connection, see the world in a completely different way. And this is called awakening. And so what we have is a fake awakening, an awakening that's okay. When you start awakening, the first thing you start to see, most people start to see, is the fact that actually the world's not like we thought it was, and the people running the world are not really the people that we think are running the world. That's the first stage. The idea, there's the genie starting to come out of the bottle.
It's
But
like onion, like layers of an onion of just lies upon lies.
Yeah, but what you want, you can't put the genie totally back in the bottle, so you just stop it getting any further out. So you focused attention. You started the awakening. So you're not seeing the world and reality and world events in the way you did before. You can see that there's more to it. The idea is to then focus attention on the fact that you have awakened to the conspiracy, when the conspiracy is vastly, vastly greater than that.
The here and no more thing you talk about.
Yeah,
the here and no, only so far.
The here and no further. The real awakening, the awakening that changes everything, is when you start to realize that the whole thing is fake, that your body is a biological computer that's constantly decoding this information field, which is the simulation, into an apparently physical reality that's external to us when it's not. And as I was going to say, what's happening with this technological kind of explosion that's going on is it's technologically mirroring the very way that we experience and decode reality. So what is Wi-Fi? The entire internet is in Wi-Fi. And you get a computer and you tap it in, you tune it in to the Wi-Fi field, right, and it will decode that field into a completely different form to the field, information-wise, that we see on the screen. Mm. And the internet that we see on the screen can only exist in that form if a computer is decoding it. Without computers, there is no internet. You can produce an internet field of information, Wi-Fi, but it will stay as a radiation field. It won't become what we see on the screen unless a computer decodes it.
Actually, this is a good segue real quick, because so in a way, it's, if you break it down then to us being consciousness, so it's almost, it needs the consciousness to manifest the signal, right? So you could say the DNA computer or whatever, but it's interesting because, have you heard of organoids?
No, well, Borgs I have, yeah, but not.
Organoids are these little balls of brain matter.
Oh, yeah.
And they plug computer chips into them, and then they also have this thing. Elon's clone was talking about cortical labs, where they put neurons on chips. And when you hear him talking about it in that conversation you guys were having on it with Alex Jones, he's like, we need the neurons. We need the neurons. So in a way, I can make my mind think like the neuron almost being itself like midi-chlorians or something like that in Star Wars, like The neuron itself is what is collapsing the wave function of consciousness. So their computers can't actually be conscious, which is their holy grail, until they're connected to our neurons. So they'll do all the functioning and they'll do all the crunching, but until they actually get us to render it into a synapse, into a brain, into a physical neuron, then it can't actually be a true conscious being. And that's why it wants to connect with us so badly. It needs these neurons to hijack, to generate, to collapse the wave field in quantum mechanics, because the observer effect says, if you look here, the thing happens. If you look there, the thing happens. But who's doing the looking? Who's doing the observing? Is the eye, the mind, the
Well, you could look at it like that, or you could look at it like the neurons of the brain and the body, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What we perceive to be this genetic structure was actually created by them specifically. You create the field. Take the Wi-Fi field, and then you create the biological computer to decode that field into a sense of reality. And so if you look at the way this is mainstream science, that we experience reality, what the five senses are doing is tapping into frequency fields, wave fields.
100%.
And they're turning them into electrical signals, same information, different
Which is
form.
basically a simulation in our own heads is a simulation.
Yeah, and they're sending that information electrically to the brain, and the brain is forming that into a sense of holographic, actually digital holographic reality, which we experience as external to us when it's actually all going on in here, just as everything that is involved in the computer in front of me decoding the internet is going on inside the computer. The computer is not producing an external reality. I'm looking at a screen and seeing what the computer is decoding inside the computer. And so the Wi-Fi computer interaction dynamic is a wonderful analogy for the way we're creating reality. And you know, if you think about it, you are consciousness, and you find yourself in a body that is from cradle to grave delivering to you a sense of reality through this decoding system. Now, all you've got to do is go on the internet, some video platform, and put in words that will get you compilations of people wearing virtual reality headsets. And you see what happens. They put their headset on, and within seconds, the information being fed to them via the headset is completely taken over their reality. They're shouting, falling off chairs, running away, screaming. And that's just a headset on someone who should be aware that they're in a room and this is just a game. Right. So you take the headset off and you go, pew, it was just a game. But the human body, if you take the headset off, or the headset ceases to function, that's what we call death, then you can't take it off without leaving this reality.
And now, so just to play, I hate the word devil's advocate because it's more like just being skeptical in general. Now, I'm not proponing this at all, but when I heard you and the so-called Elon having this conversation on Alex Jones, I actually ended up getting in that conversation later. But you're saying we're in a virtual reality, and this fake Elon is saying that he wants to put everyone in a virtual reality. So at a certain point, if we're already, and I'm not for this at all, but I'm just saying, if we're already in a virtual reality and everything we see is a lie and it's fake, then couldn't they argue that if we put us in another layer, we could protect our senses from the already fake reality? If we're already going to live in a fake reality, why not live in a dream world instead of this reality of pain?
Well, this is a dream world. And it's
No,
a
I
dream
know, but
world.
if you just pick your dream world, now you have a
It's
mansion
a
and a
dream
hot
world.
wife, you know?
Yeah, but this is the point.
I mean, I believe this is real. I know
Yeah,
it's fake, but it's real.
what we're looking at with this AI and this hive mind, and eventually the uploading of consciousness to cyberspace, is the
But I mean,
net.
aren't you already arguing we were already uploaded?
No, yeah, but the well, no, we're not uploaded. We are experiencing through a biological computer that's constantly delivering us a certain reality.
But the
Which,
biological computer is fake too. It's not even real.
yeah, well, exactly. It's you know, that's why my books are often not short. Because there's a lot of elements to this. The point being that we still have the opportunity, if we awaken, to reconnect with beyond the simulation. And that completely transforms your sense of reality. I can tell you that because I've been through it.
Speaking of which, when did you
No,
do
no,
the
no,
ayahuasca?
I've got to finish this point.
I'm sorry. I know I'm
Now, the
interrupting.
thing is that to stop that, to stop any chance of an awakening to awareness beyond the simulation,
Oh,
you then impact and infuse an artificial
another
AI
layer.
level,
Yeah.
where artificial intelligence is now controlling totally your thoughts, your perceptions, and your emotional responses,
Mm.
which means with AI controlling them, you're never going to question who you are, where you are, and if there's another level of you beyond what appears to be you, the human. You're not going to question that.
It's
So
like
what?
wearing a glove, but you could like wear through the glove and feel the wall. But now you put 10 layers of gloves on, you'll never be able to touch the
Well,
base reality.
that's exactly the basic situation. So it's a simulation that was created, and what has happened in incremental stages is more and more control has been imposed to target what they have to stop for the whole thing to not fall apart ultimately. And that's the connection to beyond the simulation. It wants to control within the simulation everything that you perceive and all information that you receive. And
Yeah.
This AI level is to take it to the next stage.
Yeah, I call it flesh bots. They want to basically take over our bodies and turn us into flesh bots, where they could put a microchip in. They always talk about having robots, but realistically, human beings, if you don't care about freedom or anything, a human being can live off a bowl of rice. And we get a cut, we fix ourselves. And so all you need is a microchip, and you overtake, or virtual reality, you overtake the consciousness of the human person, and now you have 6 billion robots on Earth that will do your bidding.
Yeah, well, if you look at it, vast numbers of people are already robots. One of the things I'm pointing out in the books is there is a software program running through this biological computer, and it's telling you to basically focus your sense of identity on the computer. So this is me. This is not a vehicle for the true me consciousness to experience this reality.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
me in
I'm guilty.
totality. And so what you have is not just a fake reality being delivered by this computer all the time. You're also having the pressure on your perception to believe that this is who you are.
So
And
it's
so
taking
what?
the free will element out. So we
Yeah,
already have free will, but we're inside of, now it's taking it one step
yeah,
further.
we have free will to remember the true nature of the I, which is beyond the simulation. But we are constantly bombarded from cradle to grave with information and stimulation to stop us realizing that, and to focus attention only on this level, because then they gotcha. And what we've been given basically is two choices. One, given to us by orthodox science, that says you are a cosmic accident who has come into existence by some miracle. You were once in the primordial soup, and suddenly there was a big bang or whatever, and you became Ethel down the checkout or whatever. And when your body ceases to function, then you cease to exist, because consciousness is in the brain. That's the orthodox science view. The other alternative is that you are subordinate to some judgmental God who will accept you in heaven or condemn you to hell on the basis, in most of them, on one life on earth, which seems very fair. So basically, I'm a cosmic accident, and I'm basically irrelevant and pointless, because, when I go, I disappear. Or I'm subordinate to some judgmental God that somehow I have to bloody please. And by the way, these people in these blokes in long dresses are the arbiters in all the bloody religions of what you must do to please God or incur His wrath.
But do you think that there's divinity though to us as a creation, right?
Yeah, but they're all perceptual control systems.
What do you think about the Revelations, the mark of the beast? Like, I have a weird theory on that one. Like I say, I'm not a big Bible thumper, but I keep all avenues open. Like, I have a theory that maybe that was, let's say, the fallen entities or whatever could have even written that in to Revelations, because it wasn't in the original Bible. It was revealed through a hallucination later on. And basically that was put in as predictive programming, so that when people saw the mark of the beast, and when they saw the world religion, and then when they saw the can't buy, can't sell, they start going, yay, we're almost free. God's coming home. It's like, so you write a story for sheep going to a slaughterhouse, and they say, well, when you see the big factory, and when you hear the moans and the crying, and when you get off the truck and you get on the conveyor belt, that's when you know it's almost time for your soul to be free. When really it's just pre-programming them to, as the final door shuts down and the AI simulation and the computer take over, that people, religious people, the ones that would fight against it, are basically on their knees praying at that very key moment. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, if you look at religion, one of the prime positions that they want you in is on your bloody knees, and that tells you everything. But what you say has a lot of validity, not least because it's very clear that biblical prophecy, not least Old Testament biblical prophecy in relation to Israel, is being systematically made to appear to be happening, when actually it's not God making it happen, it's humans.
Yeah, when you're transporting red heifers from Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
To make it, to like when they said when a red heifer, they were thinking like, you're out in the field, you see the red heifer, you're like, oh my God, the prophecy. But no, they're like genetically modifying a red heifer and like, see, we got one. It's like, yeah, I don't think that works. You can't.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, you see what they've sought to do in terms of the Israel situation is get the vast Christian hordes, and they're still very, very large. I understand they're still the biggest religion, on board. And to get them on board, you have to make them believe that the God they worship is making things happen towards the quote end times, as they talk about. And so the biblical prophets, the Old Testament prophets that are quoted, were talking about the fact that the third Solomon's temple was going to be built on what Jews and Christians call Temple Mount, in this period of the end times. And then you've got the red heifer. That's part of it. There'll be a red heifer will be born in Israel, and it will never carry a yoke on its back. And so you make it happen. You import them from Texas, and so you look at a few years ago that if someone had suggested that they were going to build a new Solomon's Temple on Temple Mount, which involves demolishing the big mosque there, the Alaska Mosque, you would have had people laughing at you and saying, well, can you imagine that it would be a bloodbath if they tried to do that? But now look at what's happened in Gaza. Look at what's happening in the West Bank. The control now that the Israeli military, etc., has over Palestinians, it starts to become seeable and doable. And so you've had the massive funding of Trump in the first two elections by Sheldon Adelson, this super ultra Zionist, who handed over $200 million and on the agreement that Trump would oversee and agree to move the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and that he would recognize the Golan Heights not as Syrian land but as Israeli land, and he did.
Yeah.
And we've now had his Sheldon Adelson's wife, he's now passed, Miriam, handing over at least $100 million in the last election campaign, with the agreement, and you'll see this moving forward, that Trump will recognize on behalf of America the annexation by Israel of the West Bank. So these things have to get support from not least the Christian base of Trump.
Yeah, because there's more Christian Zionists than there are Jewish Zionists, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you can persuade them that actually biblical prophecy is happening, and God's making it happen,
trust the plan
when humans are doing it, yeah. Well, you'll get them to support what's happening in Israel and what's happening in terms of the Palestinians. And even I was surprised how early in his presidential period that Trump started talking about removing the Palestinians from Gaza and turning it into a seaside resort for the rich and famous.
I gotta weigh in on that one real quick. That is so